This is a HeadGum podcast.
I'm Yasmin, the host of the podcast Witty, Women in Tech Talk to Yaz, where I talk to female coders and execs about how they're shaking up the tech industry. Subscribe on iTunes and like us on Facebook.
Tune into the Unapologetic Podcast with lifestyle, wellness, entertainment, and cultural commentary geared towards bridging the gap between millennials and Gen Xers. Subscribe on SoundCloud and iTunes, as well as its online presence at www.unapologeticallyus.com.
Hi everyone, I'm teaming up with the website Rewire.news to explore the intersection of their work and mine on a brand new podcast called Get It Right. On Get It Right, we explore pop culture through the lens of justice, and particularly reproductive justice. I'll be talking to critics and creators about comics, movies, TV, music. Anything is fair game. You can find it now on iTunes or Stitcher. Just search for Get It Right or Rewire. Give it a listen and drop us a review with any ideas for what you'd like to hear us cover. See you soon.
Hi, this is Karen Pittman. I play Inspector Priscilla Ridley on Marvel's Luke Cage, and you are listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast.
Hi, I'm Mika Burton. I work for Rooster Teeth, and you're listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, and you're listening to Black Girl Nerd podcast.
This is Riley Ritchie, a.k.a. Jacob Anderson, a.k.a. Grey Worm from Game of Thrones, and you're listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast.
I'm V. Watkins, New York Times bestselling author of The Cook Up and the B-Side. You are now listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast.
Hey, this is Rick Fox from Greenleaf, and you're listening to the Black Girl Nerd podcast.
Hey, it's Sanaa Lathan, and you are listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast.
Hey, this is Gina Prince Spicewood, and you are listening to the Black Girl Nerds podcast.
Holla boys and girls, it's the BGN. Coming from the Marvel world to the DC friends. All the way from Hollywood to the PCN. She defends everyone from sleazy men. Won't apologize for spitting Shonda rhymes. The space that we make is never colonized. Talking games and movies and actors. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Yeah, better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Ha. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 115 of the Black Girl Nerds podcast. My name is Jamie, and I am your host. This episode is titled simply W. Kamau Bell and Angie Thomas. Our first segment features host of CNN's United Shades of America, comedian, and now author, W. Kamau Bell. He talks about his latest book that's coming out, and we find out Joelle is related to W. Kamau Bell. In our second segment, we invite author Angie Thomas, New York Times best-selling author Angie Thomas, I should say, a self-declared black girl nerd, and author of the book The Hate You Give. Everybody's been talking about this book, and it's being adapted into a motion picture film. This is a one-on-one interview with Kyndal. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. We only have 2 segments this week, but I gotta say, these 2 segments are filled with a ton of knowledge and wisdom from each of our respective guests. We learn a lot from W. Kamau Bell, and I gotta say, in our second segment with Angie Thomas and Kyndal, it felt like I was listening to 2 Southern girls drinking some sweet iced tea on the porch, just chatting it up. So it's BGN 115, W. Kamau Bell and Angie Thomas. Enjoy. W. Kamau Bell is a critically acclaimed socio-political comedian and host of the Emmy Award-nominated hit CNN docuseries United Shades of America. Season 2 premiered on April 30th, and Kamau's first book, The Awkward Thoughts of W. Kamau Bell, Tales of a 6'4" African-American, heterosexual, cisgender, left-leaning, asthmatic, black and proud blurred, mama's boy, dad, and stand-up comedian, ooh, that's a mouthful, came out on May 2nd of this year. Kamau is the host of 3 podcasts. Denzel Washington is the greatest actor of all time, period, Politically Reactive, and Kamau Right Now. Kamau Right Now also airs live on NPR radio station KALW. Kamau's first comedy special, Semi-Prominent Negro, was produced and directed by Morgan Spurlock.
Hi guys, this is Joelle Smith, and I am so freaking excited because today we have W. Kamau Bell. Some of you might know him from CNN, United Shades of America. Some of you might know him from his amazing stand-up. Some of you may have read his incredible articles. Many of you will be rushing to the stores May 2nd to pick up his new book, which has an incredible title, which we will get into shortly. Please help me in welcoming W. Kamau Bell to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You have been on this incredible whirlwind tour of not just stand-up, not just doing upfronts for the book. You've been doing stand-up and opening up for Dave Chappelle on these crazy 5-hour gigs. Where is all of this stamina coming from?
That's a good question because I don't feel like I have much left. Yeah, I haven't. The Chappelle thing, I haven't done. I talked about that on the Tonight Show last night. I haven't done that for years, so luckily, he doesn't need me anymore. Not that he ever needed me, but yeah, I'm definitely promoting the book. Promoting United Shades, trying to start to do some stand up again. And I have 2 daughters and I'm married, so yeah, I'm hoping that there's some point where like a vacation magically reveals itself, but that doesn't seem like it's happening anytime soon.
Are you one of those creatives who is always talking about going on vacation, but is always signing up for new work?
Yeah, you sound like my wife. Yeah, that's exactly.
I hear it. A lot of the girls who are here on the show and do the podcasting with us are the same way. We're always like, man, I need a break. And then the next thing we know, we've got a whole week's booked full of things. Yeah, it's crazy, but it's also kind of fun. I don't know how I would live if I wasn't always doing something or looking forward to doing something.
I think when you're a creative person, especially when like most creative people, you spend a lot of time doing a lot of work and not making any money. So when you start to make a little bit of money and people start to request your services, you can very easily remember back to the time where you were making no money and where you would wish anybody would call you. And then also the other thing is that it's not like being in the creative industry is like a factory where you go, well, I got this job for the next 40 years and I'll retire. So you just, as my friend Jason always says, you got to strike while the iron is lukewarm.
I like that. Let's talk a little bit about the show United Shades of America, which kind of had this splash debut last year, and season 2 is coming out shortly. I was really blown away in watching the first season and the places you were willing to go. Were you picking all of the locations, or did you have a producer kind of, especially for your first episode where you were meeting with the KKK, maybe pushing you in for great ratings?
No, that was all me. I mean,
wow.
I think, I definitely that was the pilot episode of the series, so I knew I had a sense that we had to go big or go home. So that was definitely all me. I don't know if anybody could have talked me into that. If I had had that idea, I might have felt like it was a trick. Why are you trying to tell me to meet with the Klan? But, as a black man in America, the Klan was always something you heard about and read about. And also, I sort of studied it a little bit and always paid attention to this. They're always around. It's not like a lot of people think the Klan didn't exist anymore. So a big part of the episode was just showing to America, a lot of Americans, that the Klan was still a real thing. And so, while some people were like, why would you give them a platform? Most people I heard from were like, oh my God, I had no idea. And now despite that didn't seem to stop. That didn't seem to, people just sort of watched it. I'm really hoping that the show helps people engage in their communities, because especially where we are in America right now, this weekend, the premiere episode is about immigrants and refugees, but we have an interview with Richard Spencer, the guy who created the term alt-right. And I really hope that the frustration you get from watching the interview with him, you actually take to your communities and have conversations with, and don't just sort of think that he's just one guy. Those ideas are represented in the White House now. So those of us who are against those ideas have to speak loudly and resist, as they say.
People who were skeptical, I was talking about the show with some friends, and they were like, I don't know. And I was like, just let me show you the trailer. And CNN's got this amazing trailer with you talking to Richard Spencer. And you can see your jaw clenching. Was there ever a moment where you wanted to just walk away from this interview?
You know, it's funny. People have pointed that out. That I couldn't play poker. I got a pretty good tell. Yeah, like I think, you know, it is hard to sort of sit there sometimes and listen to things that are being said, but by the same token, it's like my job is to sit there and let him get as comfortable as possible and really talk, because the more he talks and the more comfortable he gets, the more people at home are hearing something that they've probably never heard before, and the more he's likely to say something that he probably didn't expect to say, you know. So it's funny, the whole interview doesn't really swing on, sort of his bigger ideas. It really swings on for me the fact that he is horrified by the idea of a black James Bond. It seems like such a small, tiny thing that for a guy who's supposed to be trying to take over the whole country. Like, really, if you're going to get hung up on black James Bond, you're probably not going to get to that white ethno state you want.
That's so funny. I feel like, especially because us being, POC and nerdy, we're always kind of pushing and striving for the little things, like, small victories of visibility. But it's equally as funny when it comes from the other side and people are like, why do you want to see yourself? I mean, don't you enjoy seeing yourself when you're watching a show or reading a book and you can put yourself in the main character's shoes? Isn't that fun for you? I never understood that's the hang up for people.
No, I think, it is funny to me that, like, I also just felt like, who's that invested in James Bond anymore? Like, who cares what they do with James Bond? I mean, I would like more black action stars, I think, but if we're going to make a black James Bond, then let's sign Idris Elba up. But I just don't feel like he really expressed, his face turned at that moment when I said that. I thought that was really, that was the thing I sort of hung on. You get to pull on, people sort of want me to really, confront him, but it's like, I've seen that before. That's not how I do it. For me, it's like trying to have an interesting conversation. Really, it's about getting them to talk a lot and really say things that maybe they've never said before in ways they never said it. Because one of the big things that I think he reveals in the episode is, like, the racism stuff is offensive, but really his gender politics is maybe worse.
Yeah.
You may not need black people, but you actually need women for any movement, because so, it's really, that's the thing that I think the whole thing swings on in a way that I found that even more offensive.
Why bring the show to CNN? As a stand-up comedian, do you think the news needs comedy in order to tell maybe a full spectrum of these stories, or was it, the way they kind of go about producing these shows that intrigued you?
To be honest, the show was brought to CNN before I was even a part of it. And I feel pretty lucky now that happened. Like, I was sort of CNN suggested me, so I have to shout out to CNN. And, and they suggested me to the production company, and the production company liked me. And so, but, just to be clear, I think I'm pretty lucky to be in a network like CNN, because there's not a lot of shows on CNN. So, like, this weekend with the show premiering, like, I'm on every show on CNN. They have my lower third on every show. They're showing the commercials constantly because they don't have a lot of shows. It's me and Bourdain right now, and Soundtracks. They have 3 shows. Whereas, like, if I was at, like, a bigger network that had more programming, it'd be harder to find space to promote the thing. But if you're watching CNN for 15 minutes, you're going to see my face. Sorry about that if you're getting exhausted by it. And then the other thing about CNN that's great is that, even if you don't care about CNN at all, eventually you're sitting in an airport waiting for your flight and it's on the TV. So a lot of people stumble across my show who never would have, just because it's in their face at the dentist's office or the coffee shop. It's just there. So, it's been real good for me.
I'm curious, because we've talked about, some of the heavier episodes with the KKK and your upcoming show, but you also did, these kind of, I don't want to say softer, but maybe less suspected. The tag of the show is a black man goes where he's not supposed to. But you go to prison and you talk to a bunch of the guys there, including veterans, which I found fascinating. You did Story Off the Grid, one in Alaska. Which episode from season 1 kind of maybe surprised you most, or had the most crazy moment?
It was definitely the one that surprised me most was the episode we did in San Quentin prison. Like, I really went in there sort of really afraid of talking to those guys, and came out really, like, loving those guys and really wanting to help them. I've been back twice or 3 times since the episode. I feel bad. I should have gone back more, but it's, I really find those guys to be quite self-actualized, and they've educated themselves in prison. They have way more college degrees than I have, because I have 0. And it's really sort of posed the question of like, okay, if you have all these self-actualized, thoughtful, and I was only talking to men, but men in prison, and they, you know, a lot of the crimes they committed were 20 years ago or more, when a lot of them when they were like either teenagers or in their early 20s, now they're in their 40s or 50s, and they haven't really offended in prison for years and years. Like, and a lot of them, I mean, there's some crimes where maybe you need to stay in prison for the rest of your life, but most of the guys I talked to, it was for stuff like, you know, life imprisonment for bank robbery seems crazy. It just seems like, you know, especially where nobody died. I mean, I'm not saying bank robbery is not a crime, but it's where, you know, the guy who did the crime that I'm talking about, named Juan, he said he had a bomb, but he didn't have a bomb. You know, like, it's just a whole series of things where it's like, you know, and he's in there, he's literally like running around, like leading the prisoners and running the newspaper and making connections. And it's like, you need that guy on the outside. And as we sit in this country wondering where are the new inventions and innovations and leaders are going to come from, well, we've locked a lot of those people up, probably.
Yeah, it was fascinating. That's maybe my favorite episode. When you're sitting out in the yard with them and talking, it sounded a lot like when I hear my dad talk to the guys at the barber shop. And then you have this moment with a veteran who's running this amazing program for veterans in prison. And then you find out he's a prisoner himself. It was mind blowing. Because he's got the button up, and I was like, oh, you know, he's just a guy working to help, you know, his fellow veteran to find out that he's also in prison for having committed a crime. And he brought a lot of humanity to, I think, as you said earlier, a lot of people who we don't treat as human always. And it's a really beautiful and also incredibly funny episode.
Yeah, no, and a lot of that stuff happened after we got behind the bars, that we sort of like just sort of followed the interesting stories. So like we were walking through walking through the cells are, and this one of the brother who had the tam on, like saw me, goes, if you want the real story, talk to us. I was like, all right, and we set up a conversation for the next day. Like, it was just like, I don't know what you have, but I like your gumption. I want to hear what you think the real story is. And that ended up being one of the best scenes of the whole season. And it ends. I like when the people in the laugh, when they get the big laugh at the end of scenes, and that ended one of the big ones where the guy who has no access to the internet tells me to go home and Google pinochle. You know, I mean, because I was such a bad pinochle player. So for me, that was like, this is. It felt like I was honored to be in there. So yeah, and that episode was right after the episode that aired right after the Klan, and I was really nervous about it because I thought people are going to think every week it's going to be like me doing something scary where I might die, and ostensibly prison could have been that, but it wasn't that. So I thought people might not take it, but last season people really with us from episode to episode because the tone changed quite quickly. Quite dramatically. There's a big change from the KKK to Alaska.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think at the center of that is this desire for truth and kind of understanding your fellow man. And I'm curious if that translates to your book, which has this amazing title that kind of reads like a Twitter bio. It's Tales of a 6'4" African-American, heterosexual, cisgender, left-leaning, asthmatic, black and proud, blurred, mama's boy, dad, and stand-up comedian. The awkward thoughts of W. Kamau Bell.
There you go.
Where does this title come from? Why did you want to get all of your, I guess, kind of isms out there up front?
You know, because it's easy just to be put into the black manism because that's, you know, when you look at me, that's what you see. And I really feel like the book was about more than that. And I believe in putting it on that you put it on the tin, put it on I believe in long titles. I'm from the Fiona Apple school of titling things. So I believe you just put it on the thing. This is what it is. Because I'm aware that you can think it was something, something other than it is. And that title to me says comedy because it's sort of absurd. And it also says inclusion without having the word inclusion in it or inclusive. So, it does a lot of listing that then, and it was also great to like write the book because then I realized at some point, I don't have anything about cisgender in here. And I was like, oh, I should tell the story about how I found out what that is. And so it helped me sort of even know where to go when I was writing the book.
So the book is about your subcategories then, I guess, the different areas in which you fall?
Yeah, I mean, the book is about the fact that oftentimes we have to put ourselves in very specific categories. You know, we have to, or we're sort of limited to the categories that people see, see when they see us walking down the street. And I think that we all know we're more than just one thing. We all have more titles. And that's sort of, for me, it's the idea of like looking at yourself and go, how else would I describe myself? And some of that is actually learning how I wouldn't describe myself. Like, you notice the title feminism isn't in the title or feminist isn't in the title. Because I was like, I don't feel that good about, as a man, labeling myself a feminist. Like,
you don't, why not?
That's kind of like, I feel like it's like somebody awarding themselves a black belt in karate. That's not how it works. Like as a man, I feel like I can aspire to feminist ideals, and I certainly do because I have 2 daughters and my wife is a feminist. But I feel like, it's when men walk around really sort of owning the title of feminist, it just starts to feel a little bit like icky. And I'm not saying there aren't male feminists. I'm just saying that I didn't feel comfortable putting that title on myself, especially when it's like, I know what's in my head. Like, I know what I'm sorting through before I say things sometimes. And, I know it, so I think that it's like, it seems like something that I didn't feel comfortable, like, how could you be a feminist and say this? Good point, right?
I really like the idea that a woman would have to bestow you with the title of feminist, that you can't claim it. You could be it, you could aspire to it, but that it's gotta come from a woman. I know we're running out of time, so I want to wind down here a little bit and talk to you about maybe as we mentioned at the top of the show, you're doing so much, and a lot of it seems to be exploration about walking around as a man in Black skin. And I'm curious if in the past year you've learned anything, or you felt you've like grown, or maybe if in any of these experiences you've kind of been surprised to learn something different about yourself that you didn't know going into these projects.
There's always more to learn. I have a podcast with my friend Harry Kyndal, Politically Reactive, and every week, and we really keep the podcast pretty loose. It's all conversations with people. And so often our listeners will get frustrated with the fact that we didn't ask somebody a certain question, or we didn't pursue somebody hard enough on something. And sometimes we sort of go, it's a conversation. It's like, if we didn't get there, maybe we'll have a conversation again to try to get there next time. But it's really just a conversation. But sometimes they call us out about things we say and things that we put forth, and they correct us and fact check us. And I feel like the thing that I've most learned from all these projects is you have to be ready. You have to be willing to be corrected when you're wrong. I think that's the biggest thing you can do in any, if you're trying to be the ally of other people, you have to be willing to be corrected when you're wrong and not get caught up in your ego. And that's the whole awkward thing. The book is about my awkward thoughts. And when you're corrected, it's awkward. It's easy to get defensive and talk over people and get loud. But for me, it's like, if you tell me I'm wrong, I sit back and listen. And then sometimes I'll disagree and go, I think we have a difference of opinions. Thank you for talking to me. But sometimes we're like, yeah, you're right, I'm wrong. I'll try to do better. So that's the awkwardness we sit in now. We currently have a president in the White House who doesn't think he's ever been wrong in his life. He's clearly wrong a record number of times every day. It just feels to me like that's indicative of where we're at as a country. And I think a lot of people in the country are taking on his ways of being in the world, and it's not a good way for us to live in this country. It's that we have to be able to be sensitive to those around us and be willing to admit when we're wrong. That's how we get to the better America. That's how we get to, the country that most of us want this country to be. That the 52% of us who voted for Hillary Clinton, I don't remember what it was, but or the 55% of us who didn't vote for Trump, that we all know that's the America we should have, and we just have to fight for it.
So it's been a real pleasure watching you tackle these issues, especially in, I guess, spaces where traditionally it's incredibly challenging for a Black person just to get access to or to get real answers to. And as we're trying to have these conversations in our personal lives, it's hard because I know a lot of us are dependent on our jobs, or, we don't want to lose family or friends over these issues that are near and dear to our hearts, but the conversations are important. So I really appreciate you being out there and kind of showing us a way of starting these conversations at least.
Well, thanks. I feel like I'm trying to show myself the way. So if anybody thinks it's the right way, feel free to come this way, but also be prepared to turn around and go the other way when I get lost.
I want to end the show in a kind of awkward Black moment, if you don't mind. So I told my mom I was interviewing you, and she got very excited, and she was like, we're related. And I was like, Mommy, don't do this. Don't tell me that we're related. And she was like, no, he's related to Jerry Bell of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who's married to my Aunt Ruthie. Yes, my Aunt Ruthie. Oh. So, yeah, okay. I guess we're like second, third cousins apart by marriage kind of situation.
That's hilarious. We are actually related. That's really funny.
I died a little excited.
Once ago. That's hilarious. That's really, really funny. I was prepared to, because, Bell is not the most uncommon name. I was prepared to hear some sort of like Bell that I'd never heard. And I was just, okay, sure. I mean, often people go, if your last name is Bell and you're from, Alabama, Mississippi, or Louisiana, yes, I'm sure we were all related. At least we were on our people came from the same plantation at some point.
Sure.
But yeah, no, we are actually related. Your mom is right.
Yeah.
Your mom.
I had to confirm. I was scrolling through Jerry's Facebook, and I was like, let me make sure I don't embarrass myself in front of this man. But it was cool. Well, thank you for letting me.
You saw like, oh, he's commented on his things. Oh yes, this is a real.
Yeah, it was actually really sweet. He posted. He was like, I'm so proud of my cousin and the work he's doing on CNN. And I was like, okay, well, that's legitimate. It's right there. It's in black and white.
Verified.
Well, thank you for sharing that awkward family black moment with me, and thank you so much for coming on our show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Angie Thomas was born and raised and still resides in Jackson, Mississippi. She's a former teen rapper whose greatest accomplishment was an article about her in Right On magazine. She holds a BFA in creative writing from Belhaven University, and her debut young adult novel, The Hate You Give, is published by Bray, HarperCollins, and Balzer, which was released on February 28th of this year. The Hate You Give is now being adapted into a motion picture film. Film rights have been optioned by Fox 2000 with George Tillman attached to direct and Hunger Games actress Amandla Stenberg attached to star.
Welcome to the Black Girl Nerds podcast. This is your host, Kyndal, and joining me today is #1 New York Times bestselling author Angie Thomas. Her thrilling debut young adult novel, The Hate You Give, shot to the top of the New York Times bestseller list just 1 week after it was published. Her story follows 16-year-old Star Carter, who witnesses her childhood best friend fatally shot by a police officer. After the shooting, Star confronts the reality of racial injustice in America and learns the importance of finding and using her voice. Angie, thank you so much for coming on the Black Girl Nerds podcast.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here. This is seriously a dream come true. And you're probably like, girl, that's your dream. Yeah, it is.
Not the New York Times bestseller.
I mean, that's great, but you guys have given girls like me such visibility, and it is so important. So to have your platform and then to be on your podcast, I'm amazed. So thank you for having me, and thank you for even existing.
Yes, and I think a lot of people obviously know about your book, but more people need to know about it. So I read it. I started reading it on a Tuesday and I finished it on a Thursday. I inhaled it.
Wow, that is awesome.
I was flipping through the page. I was like, I can't stop reading this. And then I sent out a mass text to my friends and I said, you guys, I just need to tell you about this book. You have to go pick it up. And my friend texted me back and she's like, oh, I picked that book up yesterday. I just saw a black girl on the cover and I didn't know what it was about. She literally picked up your book because there was a black girl on the cover, and that's just something we don't see, especially in a #1 New York Times best-selling novel. So
it's amazing. I've had so many young black girls thank me for the cover. I can't take credit for it, of course, because I'm not an artist. But there's an artist by the name of Deborah Cartwright, and she is a black woman in New York City who does amazing artwork. And so HarperCollins got her to do the artwork that we see on the book. But what's gotten me is the black girls who come up to me and they're like, thank you, because I've never seen myself on a book cover. And I'm like, publishing, you got to fix that, because we don't see enough of ourselves on covers. So every time I hear someone say, oh, I picked it up because I saw someone like me on the cover, I'm like, yes, Mm-hmm. It's important. It really is. And I hope we see more of it.
Yeah, same. So we'll talk a little bit about your book for those people listening that don't know about it. Your book is titled The Hate You Give, and that has a very special meaning. And I know you've answered this question before, but just kind of explain the meaning behind the title and why you chose that title for your book.
Sure. First of all, I always have to point out that the U in it is on purpose. It's spelled, instead of the hate you, Y-O-U, is the hate you with the letter U. give. And I've had people come at me sideways like, what are you doing? Are you trying to be ghetto? And I'm like, are you kidding me? First of all, I know how to spell. It's on purpose. I swear it is. It comes from Tupac Shakur. Everybody knows Pac for having that thug life tattoo across his abdomen. But what a lot of people don't know is that it was an acronym for the hate you give little infants F's everybody. And he once explained that as meaning that what society feeds into youth has a way of affecting us all. And he said that in like 1992 in reference to the Los Angeles riots. So we still see that though today. The hate that's given into the little infants affects us all. So that's exactly what happens in the book. And I felt like it just made sense to use that. And also that word thug, it spells out thug. That word is so often thrown out there to describe young black men who lose their lives at the hands of police. And people use that and they say it in such a negative way. But I wanted to take that word and give it a whole new spin. I wanted to give it a whole new meaning. And I wanted people to look at that word that they use so often to describe our young black men. And I wanted them to really examine themselves before they use that word anymore.
Yes, and people do like to throw that word thug around. And you talk about that in the book, but also just with the most recent story about Jordan Edwards. And how so much in the news was like, oh, well, he wasn't a thug. And it's like, well,
right.
What?
Right.
What?
Yeah. I really wanted to raise the question, okay, if we have a young man who did everything you thought he shouldn't have done, does that take away the value of his life?
Exactly.
I would hope not. I hate that we've gotten to that point where people look for the bad to automatically validate somebody losing their life,
Right.
And that's exactly what I wanted to look at with this book. So yeah, it gets me every single time I see somebody do that.
Yeah, because it's like no matter what your past is, in this particular moment, you are innocent.
Right, exactly.
And that doesn't take away from the value of your life. And you definitely address that because Black Lives Matter is the central theme of this book, and I love how unapologetic your story is. I read somewhere that you said this book started out as a short story and then turned into a novel. What made you decide to go ahead and turn it into a novel?
Well, when I wrote it as a short story, I was in college, and I was the only Black girl in my creative writing program, the only Black person, period, in my creative writing program.
Wow.
And a mostly white, upper class, liberal arts school here in conservative Mississippi, Christian school at that. So I just said a mouthful, so it gives you probably an idea of what I was dealing with as the only Black girl. A lot of times I was looked upon, if there were discussions about slavery, everybody looked at me like I was there or something.
Oh, right.
But so I had my struggles, and I remember though, as I was in school, Oscar Grant lost his life in Oakland, California, and there was a lot of discussion at my school and a lot of people blaming Oscar for his own death. And me being the Black girl, not just the Black girl, but the Black girl from the hood, I was in two different worlds hearing two different conversations about Oscar. So at school, he was one of us. I mean, at home, he was one of us, but at school, maybe he deserved it. He had a record. Why are people so mad? And in my anger and frustration, instead of having a one-woman riot and turning things up on that campus, I decided to write. So I wrote a short story, but I had to put it aside after graduation just because it was so emotionally taxing. But then Trayvon Martin happened. Michael Brown happened. Tamir Rice happened. And I'm feeling those same emotions again. And I'm hearing people on a wider scale say some of the same things about these young men that they were saying in my school about Oscar. And I also remember with Rachel Gentil, the young lady who was on the phone with Trayvon Martin at the time of his death. I remember being so angry with the way the media and the majority of the population treated this young lady. They were more focused on how she said things as opposed to what she said. And in my anger and in my frustration, and after having conversations with kids around my neighborhood who were so upset because they saw themselves in Trayvon Martin, I had to write. So I wrote it honestly for myself first and foremost. I never thought that it would even be published. So it was a cathartic thing for me. It was like therapy for me. And I felt like I had to write it for myself before I lost my mind.
Yeah.
I wanted to explore that. I wanted to explore the struggles that come with being Black in two different worlds. I wanted to discuss these young men who are so often called thugs, and I wanted to show a young Black girl who would do things the way that everyone thinks she probably should, but at the end of the day, will anybody still listen?
Right. And I read a lot of young adult novels, and one of the great things about this book is that this was the first time in a very long time that I felt I actually related to this 16-year-old. I mean, it was so real. And even I put this in the article about, how you act one way at home and then another way at school. I could relate to that as far as like being in the corporate world, like acting one way at home and then completely code switching to do something else at the office. And so, I could tell that the story that's here, it's so authentic, and it just really speaks to a large audience. So thank you so much for that, girl.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That means everything to me. Seriously, it really does. It really does, because it was something I was hesitant to do, because I don't think I've read like young adult novels that address code switching, and that's nothing against, because I love YA. I'm not, throwing shade at anything. I just hadn't seen it. And it was something that was such a big part of my life, even as an adult. When I was writing this book, I worked at a church. Surprisingly, considered all the curse words in it, but I worked at a church. I was writing this book while at a church. And in a way, though, even though it was a Black church, I had to code switch. I may leave the house blasting Tupac, but I better be playing Donnie McClurkin when I'm pulling the parking lot. So there are
like you turn the corner, like whoops, let me turn that down. Yeah.
I mean, once or twice, I slipped up. I was blasting out the parking lot because I was mad, and the bishop pulled up beside me and looked at me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm off now. It's all right. I can do what I want. But no, it's just code switching, whether it's in corporate spaces like you were saying, or even in school, like with START. For so many of us, it's part of who we are. It's survival in a lot of ways. So I just wanted to address it in this book in some kind of way, because, like I said, so many kids are even dealing with it now. And I'm glad to know, though, that beyond teenagers, adults are connecting with it as well. So
yeah, and I also like how you mentioned this, but you channel your anger and your frustration into art, and I think that's it. Like you said, it is emotionally taxing, but it was also cathartic, and that's such a good thing to do, to like take the anger and the frustration that you have and create something out of it. And I think that's what made this book even extra special. Because you can take your anger and then take it out in different ways, and I think taking it and turning it into something that you created is really good and healthy.
Yeah,
just healthy. Like, whether people are like writing poems or writing songs or writing books or painting or just dance, just whatever it is, it's just so much healthier.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. It really is. I would recommend it, and I think it's a way that we create empathy, because when we pour those emotions into our art, and then people, whether they read our books or they look at our art or something, they can't help but feel those emotions as well, and that's what gets empathy. So I often say that books create empathy, and that empathy is stronger than sympathy. So I would encourage all artists out there to put those emotions into their work, because in the end it does make a difference.
Exactly.
It really does.
Because people who are not Black or young, or who experience these feelings directly, they have read this book and still feel emotionally connected, and they get what you're trying to say. And I think that's really powerful.
And it's amazing to me, when I go to Texas, of all places, and I have white girls from Texas, from rural Texas, with the thick Southern accents.
That's my home state. I live in Texas now.
Well, I'm from Mississippi, so
we Southern. I get it.
So there's a whole different, type of white Southerners. They're different, you know.
They
and
are.
when I have them telling me, you know, this book changed me, or I have the lady who emailed me saying her father was a white supremacist and raised her the same way, and she recently realized she needed to change, and somebody told her to read my book, and it opened her eyes. That's incredible to me.
That is
because
incredible, girl. What?
I know. I was not thinking about that lady when I wrote this book, you know?
Right.
I like her, but to know that my art and what I put into it, those emotions actually created empathy in someone and opened their eyes and is helping them realize the error of their ways. That's amazing. So I don't think we give books enough credit for doing stuff like that. But I never would have thought something like that would happen. Never.
Girl, I'm like, was she serious?
She sent me the longest email and it was beautiful. And because at first I was like, wait, what? You know, but when she told me that and she said, you know, I know you didn't write this book for me, but thank you for writing it because it really has changed my life. I was like, whoa, you know,
Right.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, that's the thing. And like when you create art, you know, you may have a particular audience in mind, but it is out there for everyone to consume. So, you know, like you said, she got this book, whatever kind of way someone gave it to her, and it had an impact.
Yeah. And that's amazing to me. But like I say, though, at the end of the day, though, I wanted to write it for the Black girls.
Absolutely. Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know, I mean, everything else is great, but whenever a Black girl comes up to me and she's thanking me because she sees herself in my book, or she says she hasn't seen herself in a book before, that's it for me. I don't care about the other stuff. That other stuff is nice, but at the end of the day, as long as I'm giving Black girls something, I'm great.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like it's a perk. Like, okay, you know, good, but
right,
but. So, which character was the hardest to write?
Oh gosh, Haley.
Oh.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Haley is a white girl in the book. She stars friend, and they have some issues along the way, as far as racism, microaggressions, things like that. And that character was the hardest for me to write because I could not find the sympathy for her. And as a writer, you want to try to find at least some, but it was hard because she was based on people who I dealt with.
Yeah.
So it was hard to write that character. And it was hard to write her in a way that didn't here's the thing. I wasn't about to shy away from it, you know, because like I said, she was based on people I know and experiences I've had. So I wasn't about to shy away from it. But at the same time, I didn't want a one-dimensional character. So that was probably the hardest character for me by far.
Yeah, because Haley says some things, and when she gets called out on them, her response, I'm like, yeah, yeah, we all know someone like that.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it this way, and I didn't. It's like, but it's still racist. Like,
right. You could go on Twitter and find them any day, you know?
Exactly.
So she was definitely the hardest character for me to write because that's something I'm still struggling with, especially as a woman of color in an industry that's mostly white. So I see Haley's all the time. I deal with Haley's all the time, and I'm like, why am I supposed to find sympathy? You know, but as the author, I had to go into a different place and try to really look at this character in a way. And I had to put some stuff aside myself, but at the same time, I was not about to tone her down. I was going to go there with it.
Yeah, and I think that was a good choice because, like I said, I'm reading the book and I'm like, yep, I know a Haley, I know Chris, I was like, I know. What was the other friend's name?
Maya,
yes, I know Maya. Like, I know everyone in this book. But one of the many things that I love about the book is that Star comes from a loving family with both parents, and both of those parents love each other very much. It definitely shatters a stereotype of Black people coming from broken homes. So tell us about your process in creating the characters of Star's family.
Well, when I first started on the book, it's kind of like what you said. I wanted to break that stereotype because so often people assume that black kids don't have fathers, or especially that black kids in the hood don't have fathers, and that's a lie. There are plenty of black fathers in the hood, and there are plenty of black fathers, period. What are you talking about? So I knew from jump that I wanted her to have a two-parent family just to break that stereotype. And then also for the story itself, to me, it wouldn't have served the book well if she didn't have parents who were involved. So often in young adult books, and this is not me throwing shade, it's just fact, the parents aren't around. And I often say, like in the Hunger Games, if Katniss's mom was more involved, when Katniss raised her hand and said, "I volunteer as tribute," mom would have been like, "Nah, I got this."
Girl, listen. Like, excuse you, what are you doing? Get back over here.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my Twitter followers said it would have been "Mama won't let you go hungry" games, So it would have been a whole different book, and that's fine. That served that book. That's what she had to do. But in this book, with this young lady who just experienced the worst moment of her life, her parents need to be there. Her parents need to give her that foundation. Her parents need to be involved. So it was twofold. It served the story, and I wanted to break those stereotypes. And honestly, I loved writing her parents,
I love reading her parents.
So I'm happy that I did it because it has it really has shown that black kids do have two parents. I had a white child tell me, I hadn't thought about that, but and I'm like, yeah, they do. What are you doing?
Wow.
It's just unfortunately because media has portrayed that so often. So I'm glad though that I was able to give her both parents, both loving parents, and despite the fact that the book has such a heavy topic at its core, I hope that the love of her family really balanced it all out.
Well, you have the love of her family definitely balanced it out, but you definitely have some comedic moments. I mean, the mac and cheese debate. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like this book is about, what happened to Khalil. He was shot and killed, and that is a heavy topic. Black Lives Matter is a heavy topic, but you were able to sprinkle in definitely some comedic moments and some loving moments, and I felt that it just came full circle. You told it from all sides of the story. That mac and cheese debate was.
I've had people argue with me about that. I stand by it.
Is it a side or a meal?
Right. I stand by it. It is a side dish, and it needs to have cheese crust on top, not no breadcrumb. I stand by that. I'm Southern. Call it what you want. I stand by that, though. But
my friend and I were talking about that. I was like, I don't trust anybody's mac and cheese that has not been put in an oven. I don't do that stove stuff. You do the stove, in the beginning. Whatever you need to do to melt your cheese, but at some point, this needs to go in the oven and a crust needs to form.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I mean, oh my God, that was so fun. It was like, wait, what? And then the debate about the different names and stuff, because I think that was Chris was asking why people have these certain names, and people were like, wait, hold up.
Right. Yeah.
And that scene happened in the middle of a riot. So it was we're driving away from a riot, trying to get away, trying not to get, hurt, and we're over here arguing about mac and cheese.
Yeah. And I'm sure somebody who hasn't read it, they're like, what? But no, they really do. But it was important to have that stuff to me because when I was writing the book, I thought back to one of the hardest things that ever happened to me, and that was my grandmother's passing. And one of the hardest days in my life was the day of her funeral. But what got me through it was those light moments with my family. You know, when we're joking about things my grandmother said and did, and we're laughing about the past and all of this. That's what got me through it. So I wanted to have those lighter moments because I knew for my readers, they would need something to help them get through it, because that's what gets me through it a lot. Humor. So I didn't want to, make light of this situation at all, but I wanted to find some light in the darkness, as corny as that may sound.
Oh no, but it's true. You have to, and in order to get through these difficult times, you have to find something. A silver lining. That's corny too, but
no, that's perfect. That's perfect.
So, and you did say earlier that you were definitely writing this book for the Black girls. So, what made you decide to center your story on Star as opposed to a young Black male?
Well, when we talk about Black Lives Matter, a lot of times the victims who seem to get the most discussion are young Black men, understandably so, but then there's a lot of focus in return on Black boys, and Black girls sometimes get left out of the conversation when they're affected by this just as much. There was the Black girl who was thrown on her desk because she thrown on the floor because she didn't get up from her desk. There was the Black girl in Texas at the pool party who was attacked by the police officer. There's the young Black girl, I think it was in Texas again, who was watching her mom. I'm so sorry. I'm not throwing shade at Texas, I swear.
Listen, throw all the listen. I know where I live.
Yeah. But we there are so many incidents with young Black girls, and they get left out of the conversation. There are organizations that are doing fantastic work for Black boys and for Black girls. I think about Asada's Daughters in Chicago. They're doing amazing work, but still Black girls get left out of it so much. So I wanted to write this for them. I wanted to write it for the Black girls at my church who were upset, when they were hearing people talk about Rachel Gentile, and because they saw themselves in Rachel. I wanted to write it for them, and I wanted to show a Black girl in a YA book who wasn't a sidekick, and who had her own story, and who was front and center, and who was the hero, So it was for a couple of reasons, but I think also because in a lot of ways I'm still a teenager myself deep down. It was just easy. No shame. So I really it just felt right to write Star and make this Star story as opposed to Khalil's story. While it is still Khalil's story, Star's story more so. And we've seen YA books though that focus on these matters, and I love those books, like All American Boys, but it's about two boys, So I wanted to give us a girl for a change because we don't see enough of that in this discussion.
Well, we're Black girl nerds, so we get it. Like, more power to you, because we definitely don't get that enough. And if we do get it or get the representation, it's not with the same authenticity and love and care that you put into this novel. So thank you. Thank you. So Star's dad is named Maverick and her brother is named Seven. Where'd you get those names from? I mean, I know, but I gotta ask.
Okay. Maverick, I got the name Maverick from the book Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, actually. There's a line in the book where the main character, Cassie, describes her mom, and she's like, her mom is a maverick. She doesn't take anything from anybody or something like that. And I was just like, It felt like such a strong name. And because, honestly, and I'm going to sound like such a huge fangirl for saying this, because to me it just kind of reminded me of Machiavelli, and then Tupac and Machiavelli. I was just like, let's just call him Maverick, because he influenced that character in so many different ways. So I'll go with Maverick. It's not too like Machiavelli, but, I just made the connection. I don't know. But
it's close enough.
Yeah. And Seven is considered the number of perfection. Shout out to Erykah Badu because she named her kid 7 first.
She did, yeah.
And I remember like being like 10 years old and reading that in an article, and even at 10 I was like, that is the dopest name. So I decided to name him 7. Like I said, it's the number of perfection, and I feel like with Maverick he would want to name his son something like that, a strong name like that, because he'd made so many mistakes himself in his own life. He wanted his son to be even better. He wanted his son to be perfect. And while it does put a lot on 7's shoulders in some ways, it's just a name for him to live up to in a way to say, hey, you're perfect, you're awesome, you're great, and I expect nothing but the best out of you,
Yeah.
So names are important in the book in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
I got silly with a couple of them, but we won't go there.
Oh no, we're going to go there because I have a comment and we will go there. We will go there. But no, names are important. And when I first read Maverick, the first thing that popped in my head was Maxine from Living Single.
Oh,
that was like the first thing that popped in my head.
Wow.
But I was going to say, I love how you give, like, this is obviously Khalil's story, this is Star's story, but you give everyone else in the novel their own stories as well. And I thought, like, 7's storyline was very telling, and I really enjoyed him just as Star's older brother. I was like, yeah, this is pretty great, but so we're gonna switch gears just a little bit. So you used to be a rapper, right?
Yeah. If you could call it that. I didn't really do much of anything. I really didn't. I was the kid at the school who, like, when they had freestyle battles in the cafeteria, I would jump in there and surprise everybody.
Yeah, so that was you.
Yeah, that was me.
And so you are obviously and understandably a huge Tupac fan. So, if you had to pick your favorite Tupac song, are you able to pick one?
Oh, I'm not. It depends on the day and my mood. Like, it changes every single day, it seems. Today, my favorite would have to be Old School from Me Against the World. But like yesterday, it was Changes, And like the day before that, it was I Get Around, And I think that's what I love about Pac, though, because one song can make you think, another can make you laugh, another can make you cry, another can make you angry. And that's exactly what I want to do as a writer. So it really is hard for me to pick just one. It really is. Yeah. We'll just say, yeah. I could probably pick a favorite album quicker than I could pick a favorite song.
Okay, what's the album?
Greatest Hits.
Oh, you cheated. I fell right into that. Okay. 1 point for Angie, 0 for Kyndal. Okay.
You'll give me next time. It's okay.
Well, so I wanted to, you said you got a little crazy with the character names. You're not going to bring up Devontae and Dalvin, right?
You brought it up.
I'm going to bring it up because I literally laughed out loud. I said Devontae, and whenever I hear Devontae, I automatically think of Jodeci because I feel like he was my first crush ever in life. So I just hear the name Devontae, I think Jodeci. But then his brother was named Dalvin, and I said, wait a minute. Devontae and Dalvin, and that was made clear in the book, that they were named after 2 minutes from Jodeci. So,
yeah, and their sisters, they have 3 little sisters, and their initials are TLC.
I can't. Oh my God. Listen, okay, so quick aside, like, I am obsessed with TLC. Like, obsessed with them.
I have a story if you want to hear it.
Oh, please share. Please share.
Okay. So when I was 14 years old, I was going through a hard time. My mom had to pull me out of my public school and homeschool me because of bullying and stuff like that. And she knew I was a huge TLC fan. And so, because I was in such a bad state, my mom, being my mom, she's awesome. She decides I need to get her to talk to her favorite member of TLC somehow to hopefully encourage her to keep going, you know. And my favorite member was Left Eye.
Yeah.
So my mom somehow, some way, I do not know how, found the phone number to Left Eye's studio, which we later found out was in her house. And my mom called and spoke to her assistant a couple of times and eventually got me on the phone with her. I'm like, I freaked out. It was the best moment of my life.
I would have died.
I did. Like, I was screaming, running around the house, but I got to talk to her, and it was a short conversation, but she was so nice and listened to me and, you know, encouraged me to keep going and told me, you know, things will get better, stuff like that. She was just like genuinely sweet. And she sent me an autograph and a CD before her album had even come out. She sent it to me. And so it was like, unfortunately, like a few months later, she passed.
Oh, wow. So this was only a few months.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And then, though, but here's where it really gets like full circle. So I had an event about a month or so ago in Atlanta, and I've kept in touch with her assistant, Stephanie, over the years. We're like Facebook friends. And so she found out about the event and she came, and she gave me this yellow bandana that once belonged to Lisa. She said she took it everywhere with her. It was her good luck charm, and she thought that Lisa would want me to have it, and that she knows she would be so proud of me, and that it was amazing for her to see me kind of like having young girls come up to me and their moms telling me, you know, you've encouraged my daughter, you know, so much.
Yeah.
It was her to see it come full circle. So it was probably the most amazing.
Did you cry like a baby? Like, I'm wanting to cry right now. Did you cry?
I booed like a baby. I did. And I take that bandana with me everywhere. I really do. I keep it on me wherever I go. I take it with me. And I always say that I want to treat any teenager who comes up to me the same way Lisa treated me those few moments on the phone.
Oh, my God. I don't even know what to say. I really don't.
It was amazing, and it was one of those surreal moments. Like, I still can't believe it happened. Not just the phone call, but me getting that from Stephanie. I'm just still amazed. So
yeah, I mean, that was supposed to happen. How your mother? Like, what?
Yeah, my mom is the bomb. I say that all the time. She really is.
Oh my God.
She has done so much to get me to where I am now. I'm forever grateful. And it's even stuff like that, because her doing that and me talking to Left Eye on the phone at 14 showed me that anything was possible. So I don't think I'd even be where I am now if it wasn't even for that moment showing me what's possible.
Yes. And I mean, like my cousin and I'm an only child, and so my older, she's 2 years older than me, and so we're like sisters, and the both of us, like TLC was just everything.
Yes.
They were just everything. Yes. I mean, girl, that is so touching.
And that's who I named Star's mom after, Lisa.
Yeah, I peeped that. I did. I said Lisa. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I will have to send you a picture of that bandana, because I have it. Like, I take it everywhere.
Please do, because that was like, and then, you know, when she passed, I mean, that was so, I was like, what?
Yeah. That was devastating.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll ever have anybody like that again.
Right. And I mean, because see, my mom didn't get in contact with Lisa's assistant, but she knew that I loved TLC so much that, like, she just got us tickets to one of their concerts. And I had to have been like 8 or 9 years old, and I'm like screaming at the top.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
In like the mid 90s, just like, oh my gosh. She's like, you are so obsessed with these girls. And I said, I know I am. I just, my cousin and I, we love them so much, but that's so great that she got to touch your life like that.
Oh, that's so great that you got to see them live. I'm jealous.
So, like, well, I kind of know the answer to this one. But so who are your top 5 90s R&B artists? I mean, I could probably guess 2.
Yeah.
But you could give us the top 5 90s R&B.
Okay. TLC is definitely number 1. And Jodeci is not number 2, but they're on the list. Actually, Usher is number 2.
Okay.
Usher had me thinking thoughts at 10, and I was like, what?
No, My Way. Listen.
Yes.
That album, yeah.
Yes, that album, like, and then him pulling his pants down in that video. Yeah. I don't think Usher realizes what he did for a lot of us, just with that. But there's Usher. Let's see. Okay, I'll go Jodeci for number 3. No, see, you really testing me now. You got me this time.
So do I get a point? I get like,
you get a point.
Okay.
I have to think about this, but you know, there were so many awesome like R&B acts in the 90s. Oh yeah, Boys to Men for sure. But it's hard to narrow that list down.
There's so many. There's so many.
Oh God. Oh, Aaliyah for sure. And I think I'm gonna have to go with Aunt Mary. I gotta put her on there. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I gotta put Mary on there. I mean, got to. I mean, Mary gave so many of us hood girls confidence like no other. You know, she did. So I have to put her on there. So I'm just gonna put it at that. But I'm sure, like after this is over, I'm gonna think of somebody else and be like, oh, I should have said them instead.
You'd be like, oh, Blackstreet. Oh.
Yeah.
Like some other, there's so many. 90s R&B is just everything.
It is. It really is.
I love it so much.
I gotta make me a Spotify list now.
Hey. Well, we're gonna nerd out on Harry Potter just a little bit because you have a lot of Harry Potter references in your book, which I love too. So I am personally Ravenclaw.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I technically am too, but I'm finding myself more Slytherin lately, and just in my ambition. That's my. Not like I'm evil. I'm not. I'm not being evil.
Look, Slytherin gets a bad rep. Like
it does.
Slytherin is not everyone in Slytherin is an evil person. You know.
No. So I say I'm a Ravenclaw with Slytherin ambition.
You got tendencies.
Yeah.
And you made Seven in the novel. You made him a Slytherin, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Okay, yeah. Which I thought was cool. I was like, yeah, someone, he's ambitious. See,
yeah.
Is there a Harry Potter character that you relate to the most?
Hermione for sure.
Yeah.
And I will be honest, like when I was reading the books growing up before the movies, I was like, oh, she's black, So
'cause she is.
She is. And I was disappointed, when I saw who they casted. No shade to Emma, but I was, But Hermione for sure. She gave us nerd girls, like she gave us life.
She did.
And I often say, like, Harry would not have been who he was if it was not for her. So
he wouldn't. He would not.
He would not have survived that first year if it was not for Hermione. Let's just be real. Like, she does not get enough credit. She's the backbone of the trio and the brains.
Right. And Hermione figured so many things out. And they're like, oh my God, yes, that makes so much sense. She's like, I know.
Right.
Yeah, like Harry, I mean, Harry is Harry, but come on.
Yeah, he would have been basic if it was not for her. Let's just be real.
So, like, what other things do you nerd out over?
I am a huge Black Panther fan, and I cannot wait for this movie.
Ooh, yes,
I know.
child, yes.
I secretly hold out hope that we will get a Storm movie. And she'll be recast, no offense. But
keep it real, keep it real.
Yeah. Let's see what else. I'm a video game person.
Okay.
I'm not like a big gamer because I don't have time anymore. But like right now I'm big on The Sims, which is not technically gaming to some people, but it is for me. I'm a big Sims fan. I think I have control issues. Let's see. As far as like TV goes, oh gosh, I actually love Empire. I love Queen Sugar. I try to tweet along with y'all.
Yes.
Yeah. And let's see. What else am I nerding over lately? It's been hard. It's been hard to be a nerd lately for me, just 'cause time.
Time, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean, and honestly though, but there are so many great Black shows now on television. My mom has gotten me into Greenleaf.
I still have not started Greenleaf, and everyone keeps telling me to watch it.
You gotta. And I think for me though, because I worked in the church, I'm watching it and like, yep, that's it.
Oh yeah.
The drama. I'm not gonna name my church, but the drama is like spot on. So Greenleaf all the way. I love like the Marvel Cinematic Universe for sure. I need to go see Guardians too.
Yeah, you need to see that.
Yeah, I definitely do. And I'm a big I love Disney animated films, Pixar specifically. I love them. So, yeah, I'm getting to explore more nerd stuff in my second book, and I'm excited about that.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that was my next question.
Oh, really?
Yes. What can you tell us about the next book?
What I can say is that it's not a sequel or a spinoff,
okay,
but it is set in the same neighborhood, and it is about a Black girl nerd.
Hey,
I know. Who also is a rapper. So it's like, what,
Now, which R&B artist is she going to be named after?
She's not. She's not named after any R&B artist. She's not. But no, yeah, I kind of call it like 8 Mile meets Dope.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm excited. I've been, getting to write more nerdy stuff in there with it. And some people like hip hop nerd, and I'm like, yeah, hip hop nerd. So
yeah,
that's what we're.
It's a thing.
It is a thing. It is. So you can
be a nerd about hip hop.
Yes.
So.
I mean, some of the biggest rappers out there now are nerds. I mean,
yeah.
So I'm excited. I am.
Aw. Well, I just have the next little section. It's just either or, a little rapid fire.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. So, Forever My Lady, the album, or Diary of a Mad Band?
Oh, wow. You went there. Oh. Okay. I'm gonna have to go with Forever My Lady, the album.
Yes.
Yeah, I have to.
Yes. That album is everything. Like, I love Diary of a Mad Band as well, but you got Stay and
Come and Talk to Me.
Come and Talk to Me. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, you got to go with that one. Okay.
The Autobiography of Malcolm X or Revolutionary Suicide?
Oh, you are really hitting me. Okay, I'll have to go with the Autobiography of Malcolm X. And I say that because, like, I feel like that book is like the one that first got me woke. I was like a freshman in college when I finally picked it up, and it made me look at everything differently. So I have to go with that one.
All right. I like it. I feel the same. It made me look at a lot of things differently. So definitely. Harry Potter or Supernatural?
Oh, you're hurting me.
I'm sorry, girl.
It's okay. It's okay. I have to go with Harry Potter, and like I feel so bad about saying that. I mean, I've followed Jensen on Supernatural since oh gosh, since Days of Our Lives.
Yeah. He was on Days of Our Lives.
Yes, he was. And so I feel bad, but no, I have to go with Harry Potter. Those books really changed my life in a lot of ways. So, yeah I'm sorry.
They'll be fine.
Yes, they'll be fine. They're good. They don't care.
Well, we're going to keep it Harry Potter. So I'm going to give you 3 options on this one. If you were admitted to Hogwarts, which class would you be most excited to take? Charms, potions, or transfiguration?
Oh, ooh. Is Snape teaching potions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I have a love-hate relationship with Snape. So, no.
Yeah, all the teachers are the same.
Okay. Transfiguration then, because of McGonagall. I'm just gonna be honest. Yeah, she was like, I'd love to take a class under her, and then afterwards be like, okay, so can you give me advice on this, and this, that has nothing to do with class, but you're such a badass. I'm willing to take your knowledge any way I can get it. So it would have to be transfiguration.
Well, if the teachers were different, would you still choose transfiguration?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Like ruining people, changing people into stuff.
Yeah. Potions can be a little dangerous.
Potions is pretty dangerous. Okay, I think I know the answer to this one, maybe, but Martin or Fresh Prince?
Ooh, that's hard. You think it would automatically be Fresh Prince just because of the references in the book, but that's a hard one. I think I'm gonna go with it though. I think I am, but it has to be Fresh Prince with the original Aunt Viv.
Clearly,
it cannot have the imposter.
Imposter.
So that's what I'll go with. Fresh Prince with the original Aunt Viv.
Yeah, it's like, Fresh Prince, but with stipulations.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Sugar on your grits or nah?
Nah.
Thank you.
Nah.
You.
Cheese grits, yeah, but no sugar.
No sugar.
Mm.
I agree. Which TLC album is better? Ooh on the TLC Tip or Crazy Sexy Cool?
Ooh, that's hard. It would be easy to say Crazy Sexy Cool, but as a Left Eye fan,
yeah,
C-Tip for me, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna go with it because Crazy Sexy Cool is an amazing album, but they scaled her down a lot on it, and I get why she was going through her legal stuff. Homegirl just burnt the house down. Let's be real. Yeah. So I get it. But I think on a TLC Tip, and it was just, that album is so fun to listen to.
It is.
Crazy Sexy Cool is amazing, but that one is just fun to listen to. And it's like, you listen to it and you're ready to put on your baggy clothes and stuff,
Yes, and my cousin texted me the other day, because she was watching the video to Baby, Baby, Baby on YouTube.
Oh.
But every time I hear Hat to the Back, I think about her because she was such a tomboy. And that song, really spoke to her about the baggy clothes and all of that. So
I love that song. That whole album, though, because that album, they just didn't hold back. They went there on some stuff. So I think that would have to be my favorite.
And that was back when Left Eye was wearing condoms on her
eyes. Yes.
All right. So which TLC song is better? Mm-hmm. No Scrubs, the remix, or waterfalls?
Ooh. Ooh. You are really tough. Okay. Let's see. I'll go with waterfalls. I think I'll have to go with waterfalls.
Yeah.
And yeah, because that song got me through a lot of stuff. So I have to go with that one. No Scrubs is great. I still listen to that, I'll still sing it and looking at the guy in the passenger side and I automatically think of No Scrubs. But yeah, I have to go with waterfalls.
That video was pretty deep too.
Yes, that video was amazing. So yeah, waterfalls.
Okay.
Final answer.
Final answer. Okay, so this is the last one. Hopefully it's not too hard. Since Star's boyfriend in your novel is a white guy named Chris, I have to ask, Chris Evans or Chris Hemsworth?
Oh gosh. Oh. I was afraid you were going to ask about all the Chris's because, when you put them all out there, it gets even harder. Chris Evans or Chris Hemsworth? I think I have to go with Evans.
Girl, yes.
Yeah, I have nothing against Hemsworth, but Evans, I don't know. Yeah. The accent is great, but Chris Evans, he's adorable, and I'm afraid that one day he's going to say something very idiotic and it's just going to ruin it for me. So
I know that's like the biggest fear. Like, oh God, please.
Yes, Hemsworth is fine as all get out, but I got to go with Evans. He's fine and adorable at the same time. I don't know how, but he is. So
right.
I have to go with Evans.
And he also says the right things. Like he stands up for everything. I'm just like, oh God, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, he does. He's a little bit woke.
Yeah, he's a little bit woke.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna take your answer and be like, okay, so like whoever you said, I was gonna be like, all right, Chris Evans or Chris Pine, but
if it came down to those two, it would probably still be Evans though.
Right.
I love Chris Pine too. He's adorable. But yeah, I think it'll have to be Evans all the way.
Evans for the win.
Yeah.
He just wins.
When I saw the first Captain America, I had to see it again and again and again, and it's mainly because of him.
Let's be real. Like, it was good, but...
Yeah. But he made it better.
Like, it's like, okay, I go see it once, this is good, but I'm going to see it like 3 or 4 times because...
Hey. Yeah. So that's powerful. We'll go with Evans.
It is powerful in more ways than one.
Yes.
Oh God, this was so much fun. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you. This was amazing. This has been incredible. So thank you so much. Yes. Thank you.
Now tell us where we can find you on social media.
I'm on Twitter at AC Thomas Books. I'm on Instagram, not nearly enough, at AC Writes. I also have Tumblr. It's Writer's Ambitions with a Z at the end. And my website is angiethomas.com.
All right. Sounds good. And everybody, if you haven't read The Hate U Give, you need to go do that right now. That's your homework assignment.
And if you're like, you don't read books, which is crazy to me, but if you don't read books, we will have a movie.
Yes. Yeah. I cannot believe I didn't even bring that up. Okay. So, rewind. What can you tell us about the movie?
I should have great news soon.
Okay.
About some great developments that are happening, but the movie is happening. I'm not allowed to say a whole lot, on the record.
Yeah.
But I will say we have an actress attached. You guys interviewed her about a week ago. I'm sorry, you interviewed them about a week ago. Amanda Stenberg is attached to play Star. We have a director by the name of George Tillman Jr. who did Barbershop, Soul Food, Luke Cage, and This Is Us. So I will say that his vision for the film is so incredible that I almost wish he would have co-wrote the book with me.
Oh, and I know you can't, I know like, you know, you don't do casting, but who would you have like to be other people cast in a movie if you could? 'Cause, you know.
If I could, I'm hesitant to say some stuff because I do get a little say on some stuff.
Okay.
Well, I get to make suggestions, so I could probably tell you like who I would really love. I would love Mr. Elba for her dad, and I always say Mr. Elba because he's so fine, he demands respect. That's always what I say. So I would love to get him for Maverick. Like, absolutely love to get him for Maverick.
I could see
that.
I
know y'all interviewed him, so I don't know if he listens or not, but I would love that. So
you know, we're gonna work our black girl magic.
Yes. So I would love that. And let's see. If I could, I would get like Jennifer Lewis for Nana for sure.
Yes, Nana with the drink.
She's like who I imagined as I was writing the character. So I would get Jennifer Lewis for Nana for sure. And I mean, for like her mom, there are so many great actresses out there that it's like hard to choose. Like Taraji P. Henson would be great, or Kerry Washington would be great. I'm gonna be happy, you know, with who they get because there's so many great black actresses out there.
Yes,
so
isn't that a good thing to say? That's a good thing to say.
Yeah, they just don't get enough, you know, roles. So if we could get, I'm sure it's gonna be somebody great. I'm not worried at all, because like I said, George Tillman, his vision for this movie is like so incredible, and Fox is putting like so much behind this. They're like 1,000% on board, and they're excited about it. I'm just excited to see what happens. So I have full confidence in them.
Yes, well, we're excited too.
Hey.
Thank you so much, Angie.
Thank you.
The Black Girl Nerds podcast is produced by Jamie Broadnax. Various episodes are edited by Jamie Broadnax, M.R. Daniel, and John Bauer. The opening theme song to our show is written and performed by Samus. Various instrumentals are performed by Samus, Sky Blue, and Shubzilla. You can find episodes of the Black Girl Nerds podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Spreaker, and Spotify.
That was a HeadGum podcast.